You could have a genius-level IQ and still end up broke, lonely, and lost in life. Here's why. Intelligence isn't just one thing. It's three completely different superpowers, and if you're only using one of them, you're playing life on hard mode. The most successful people in history didn't just have book smarts. They mastered what psychologists call the triarchic theory of intelligence. And once you understand how these three types of intelligence work together, everything changes. Let's start with the intelligence that might just save your life one day. Practical intelligence, your street-smart superpower. Back in 1925, a man named Victor Lustig pulled off one of the most audacious scams in history. He didn't rob a bank or break into a vault. He did something far more impressive. He sold the Eiffel Tower, twice. Here's how it happened. The Eiffel Tower was falling apart, and maintenance costs were skyrocketing. Rumors were swirling that Paris might actually tear it down and sell it for scrap metal. Most people read about this in the newspapers and moved on with their lives. But Victor Lustig, he saw an opportunity. He forged government documents, rented a luxury hotel suite, and invited 5 of Paris's top scrap metal dealers to a secret meeting. Posing as a deputy director general of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs, he told them the government had decided to sell the tower quietly to avoid public outcry. The dealers were competing for the deal of a lifetime, but Lustig wasn't just any con artist. He had practical intelligence. He studied each dealer carefully, watching their reactions, reading their body language, understanding their motivations. He identified his mark, André Poisson, a businessman desperate to climb the social ladder of Parisian elite. In a private meeting, Lustig took a calculated risk. He acted like a corrupt official, complaining that his government salary wasn't enough for the lifestyle he wanted. This detail was genius because it made the scam feel more real. What government official wouldn't want a bribe? Poisson believed him completely. He paid about 70,000 francs in 1925, which would be worth over $1 million today, plus an additional bribe to seal the deal. Lustig vanished to Vienna with the cash, and here's the wildest part. Poisson was so embarrassed that he never reported it to the police. So Lustig came back and tried to sell the Eiffel Tower again to a different group of dealers. He almost pulled it off twice, but the second buyer got suspicious and alerted authorities. Lustig fled to America. Now, Lustig didn't have a college degree in psychology. He had practical intelligence, what psychologist Robert Sternberg calls the first pillar of human intelligence. This is your street smarts. It's the ability to read situations, understand people, adapt to your environment, and make decisions on the fly. Practical intelligence has 2 critical components: judgment and adaptability. Let's break these down because once you understand how your brain makes these snap decisions, you can start controlling them instead of letting them control you. Mastering judgment. Understanding your mental shortcuts. Your brain is constantly taking shortcuts to make decisions faster. Psychologists call these heuristics, and they're essential for survival. But they can also be manipulated, just like André Poisson's were. There are 4 major heuristics you need to know about. First, the anchoring heuristic. This is when we rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive. Ever notice how a salesman always shows you the most expensive option first? Everything else suddenly seems reasonable by comparison. That $5,000 watch makes the $1,200 watch look like a bargain, even though $1,200 is still a lot of money. Second, the availability heuristic. We overestimate the likelihood of events that are easy to remember. If you watch a news report about a shark attack, you might avoid swimming in the ocean for months, even though you're statistically more likely to be killed by a cow. Vivid memories distort our perception of risk. Third, the representativeness heuristic. We judge things based on stereotypes. See someone with tattoos and a leather jacket? Your brain might instantly categorize them as dangerous, even though they could be a kindergarten teacher who just likes motorcycles on weekends. Fourth, the affect heuristic. Our emotions control our judgment. If you're in a good mood, you'll rate risky activities as safer. If you're scared, everything seems more dangerous than it actually is. Here's the key. Once you know these mental shortcuts exist, you can spot when someone is trying to manipulate you. A person who wants to control you will usually do 3 things. They'll overcompliment you for no reason, they'll try to isolate you from friends and family, or they'll rush you into making decisions. Sound familiar? That's practical intelligence in action. Mastering adaptability, the OODA loop. But judgment is only half of practical intelligence. The other half is adaptability, and for this, we turn to one of the most battle-tested decision-making frameworks ever created, the OODA loop. Colonel John Boyd developed this system for fighter pilots in high-stakes combat situations. OODA stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, Act. It sounds simple, but it's devastatingly effective. Here's how it works. First, you observe what's happening in the moment. You take in all the information around you. Second, you orient yourself by figuring out what that information means for you specifically. Third, you decide on the best move you can make. Fourth, you act without hesitation. Let's look at a real example from the movie Top Gun. The pilots spot enemy aircraft. They observe 2 aircraft, 3 miles left, 10 o'clock. They orient. I don't think they see us yet. They decide, continue left turn. They act. Execute the maneuver immediately. The OODA loop is why some people seem to thrive in chaos while others freeze. They're cycling through these 4 steps faster than everyone else. They're not necessarily smarter, they're just more adaptable. But here's the thing, practical intelligence alone won't make you successful. You need the second type of intelligence to actually create something valuable. Creative intelligence, your innovation engine. 30 years ago, Japan's bullet train had a serious problem. When it traveled through tunnels at nearly 170 miles per hour, it created a sonic boom so loud that it disturbed wildlife, rattled passengers, and infuriated villagers living nearby. Public protests erupted. The railway board faced mounting pressure to fix it without slowing down the trains. The engineers were stuck. They tried everything they could think of, but nothing worked. Then one day, a birdwatcher named Eiji Nakatsu had a breakthrough. He was the chief engineer for the project, and he loved watching kingfishers. These birds dive into water at high speeds with almost no splash. How do they do it? The secret was in the beak. A kingfisher's beak is long, narrow, and perfectly streamlined. It creates a smooth transition that parts the water instead of pushing it. Nakatsu realized he could apply the same principle to the train's nose. They redesigned the front of the bullet train to mimic a kingfisher's beak. The results were extraordinary. Noise decreased by 30%, power consumption dropped by 15%, and the train actually got 10% faster. Passengers got a quieter, more comfortable ride, and the train became more efficient overall. This is creative intelligence in action. It's not about being artistic or painting pretty pictures. It's about making unexpected connections and finding innovative solutions to problems that seem unsolvable. Robert Sternberg calls this experiential intelligence because it involves experiencing the world in new ways and combining seemingly unrelated ideas. And there's a concept that captures this perfectly: steal like an artist. Steal like an artist, the secret to creative genius. Austin Kleon wrote a book with this exact title, and it's based on a simple truth. Nothing is completely original. Every creative breakthrough builds on what came before. Pablo Picasso said it best, "Art is theft." Steve Jobs put it differently, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." But here's the distinction. Copying means you're just duplicating someone else's work. Stealing means you're taking the essence of an idea, understanding the thinking behind it, combining it with your own perspective, and creating something new. Look at the kingfisher and the bullet train. That's biomimicry, the practice of solving human problems by studying nature's designs. Georges de Mestral invented Velcro in 1941 after noticing burrs sticking to his dog's fur during a walk. Under a microscope, he saw thousands of tiny hooks that clung to fabric loops. He didn't just think, "Oh, that's interesting." He thought, "I can use this." Leonardo da Vinci studied bird biology to design the first flying machine concepts. Samuel Morse used his artistic training to develop Morse code. Steve Jobs took a calligraphy class in college that seemed completely useless at the time. Years later, it became the foundation for Apple's revolutionary typography and design aesthetic. Creative intelligence is about looking at your field and asking, what can I learn from completely different domains? If you're a filmmaker, study architecture. If you're a software engineer, study music theory. If you're a business owner, study nature. The most innovative solutions come from unexpected combinations. And here's a bonus insight. Creative intelligence actually spikes when you're slightly tired. When your brain is less focused, it makes more unexpected connections. That's why some of your best ideas come in the shower or right before you fall asleep. But creative intelligence without the third type of intelligence is just daydreaming. You need analytical intelligence to turn those ideas into reality. Analytical intelligence, your problem-solving precision. Elon Musk wanted to send rockets to space. When he looked at the cost, aerospace companies were charging around $65 million per launch. For most people, that would be the end of the conversation. But Musk had analytical intelligence. He didn't just accept the price, he asked a different question. What is a rocket actually made of? He broke it down to first principles. A rocket is made of aerospace-grade aluminum alloys, some titanium, copper, and carbon fiber. So Musk calculated the value of those raw materials on the commodity market. Guess what he found? The materials cost of a rocket was only about 2% of the typical price. Think about that for a second. Companies were charging $65 million for something that cost maybe $1.3 million in raw materials. The rest was markup, labor, legacy systems, and profit margins that had been accepted as normal for decades. Instead of buying a finished rocket for tens of millions of dollars, Musk decided to start SpaceX, purchase the raw materials directly, and build rockets himself. Within a few years, SpaceX had cut the cost of launching a rocket by nearly 10 times while still making a profit. This is first principles thinking, and it's the foundation of analytical intelligence. Most people think by analogy. They look at how things have always been done and make small improvements. First principles thinking means you break a problem down to its fundamental truths and rebuild from there. Here are the 3 steps. Step 1, break it down. Strip away all assumptions and ask, what is this really? If you want to improve restaurants, ask yourself what a restaurant actually is. It's a place with a kitchen, ingredients, cooks, and a way to get food to people. Step 2, challenge assumptions. Ask, do people actually need to sit in the restaurant to eat? What if the restaurant didn't serve people at all, just made food? Step 3, rebuild from scratch. Remove the dining area, the seats, the front of house staff, build multiple kitchens in one place, optimize only for delivery, and cut costs dramatically. That's exactly how Travis Kalanick created Cloud Kitchens, a company now valued at $15 billion. He used first principles thinking to realize that the expensive parts of restaurants, the dining rooms and prime real estate, weren't necessary if you're only doing delivery, so he created shared kitchen facilities where multiple restaurants could operate out of the same space. Training your analytical brain, the dual end-back method. But here's something most people don't know. You can actually train your analytical intelligence. For years, scientists believed IQ was fixed. Then, in 2008, researchers Suzanne Yagi and Martin Bushquale published a groundbreaking study that changed everything. They had participants play a game called Dual N-Back for 8 to 19 days. Here's how it works. You see a square appear on a 3x3 grid. At the same time, you hear a letter. Your job is to remember when a square appeared in the same spot as it did 2 steps ago, or when a letter was said 2 steps ago. As you get better, the game gets harder. This exercise forces your brain to hold, update, and manipulate multiple streams of information at once. It's like doing mental push-ups. The results were stunning. People who trained for 19 sessions improved their fluid intelligence significantly. They could solve 4.4 more matrix problems, the kind used in IQ tests, than before. The dual N-back exercise works because it engages your working memory and executive functions. It trains your brain to process information more efficiently. Start with dual 1-back to get used to the controls, then level up as you improve. Even though there are other brain training methods out there, the most effective way to improve analytical intelligence is still through learning. Read challenging books, solve complex problems, study subjects that make your brain hurt a little. That's how you grow. If this opened your eyes to a completely different way of thinking about intelligence and success, do me a favor, hit that like button, drop a comment sharing which type of intelligence you want to develop next, and subscribe if you want more content that challenges the way you see the world. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, because understanding these three intelligences might be the missing piece that changes everything for them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.